Alrighty, so up next is Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens is a principal consultant with more than 14 years focused in the performance testing space. Finally, after all this time, he has worked out how to explain what he does to his mum. To tell us what he told her, please join me in welcoming Scott Stevens.
Oh, there we are. All right, sweet. Okay, so I love my mum. Mums are great, aren't they? Yeah. How many people here, and I'm mainly talking to the under 40s, you go home and your mum says to you, so what is it exactly that you do? Yeah. What do you tell your mum? Random people.
Push pixels.
Yep.
Look at spreadsheets.
Yep.
Vote for a bank.
Yep. And your mum says, what the hell's a pixel? Or what the hell is a spreadsheet? So, mum likes to brag, and sometimes that can be quite unfortunate. So we were sitting there one night with a port in the middle of winter, as you do, and mum is almost completely technologically illiterate, right? She's got an LCD TV and a 9-kilogram cat that I call the Samsonite 9000. So that's the limit of the technology. So she was saying, oh, look, I was talking to your auntie last night, as you do. And she said, oh, how's Scott going? And mum says, yeah, no, he's going pretty well. Oh, so what does Scott actually do? Oh, something with computers. So she'd had a couple of ports by the time she was speaking to me, and admittedly, I'd had a couple as well. That will become relevant a little later on. And she said to me, so what is it that you actually do? And I kind of started with the IT spiel kind of thing, and then I thought, this is ridiculous. Because what I do actually has very little to do with computers, in all honesty. So I said to mum, look, I'm going to explain it to you. And she said, no, I'm not going to understand. And I said, no, of course you're going to understand, because you experience what I do almost every single day of your life. You all experienced here, where you went out to go to afternoon tea. If there's more than 1.4 people arriving at that door per second, a queue forms. Congratulations, you've just performance tested exiting this room. Well done. So the first thing I said to mum, again, is what I do, it's actually not new. So I'm going to ask you when you think, decades are fine with this, I'm happy with 5 to 10 year blocks. When do you think performance testing was invented? Decades.
I would say that maybe 1800s.
Yep, very close, very close. So not new at all. When the first paper was written on my practice, Europe looked very, very different. So back in 1912, there was a guy employed by the Copenhagen Telephone Exchange called Agner K. Erlang, who is now a programming language and a mathematical formula, so well done him. His job was to crawl around the tunnel coming into the Copenhagen Telephone Exchange to figure out how many lines were coming in and then how many people they needed on at peak to make sure they could patch phone calls through, based on an average length of phone call. Sounds pretty familiar. Now, if you want to give yourself nightmares, like horrific nightmares, and you can do it now if you want, and I'll tell the ones who do, because you'll just sit there with sort of like a 30-yard stare. You can look up the Erlang-C formula. It's been described as an unnatural act to calculate manually on paper, but fortunately most programming languages have it built in. And that's what it does. It helps build a predictive model of how many people or how many service centres you need on to do this thing. So that was a little bit too technical for mum, and admittedly I glossed over that mainly because I had a nice atlas and I wanted to show sort of like a picture of Europe in 1912. But how many people here live in Thorndon? Random question one. Yep, cool. So this is the superior New World, as I like to call it. Thorndon New World. I didn't take these photos myself, but Google is great if you want to stalk anonymous people who you've never met before. So the first question I'm going to ask, right, is there's 2 red arrows, and I've got a laser pointer. How cool is that? There's 2 red arrows here. So there's this guy here, and then way down there, there's another person. These are the self-service checkouts down here. These are the customer operated or checkout clerk operated checkouts. So, very simple question. I won't ask any trick questions in here. If it seems like it's a really easy answer, then that is probably the answer. What's this guy doing? Yeah, he's waiting. Nice, easy, great, halfway there. And there's a lady down there, what's she doing? Pretty much the same thing, right? You're standing there, you're contemplating your life, you're thinking, oh God, I just want to get out of here. This poor lady down here, she's probably bought some beer, which introduces another very complex queuing theory problem for the self-service checkouts. So that's fine. So the question I have for you, if they're waiting, why are they waiting? Think really, really simply. Maybe. We don't know that yet. Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't look like there's a huge amount of people in there. It's really, really simple. They're waiting because there's someone in front of them who are having their groceries checked out. Right? So we can actually drill in on that a little bit. Some very basic queuing theory, some more random people. It's great because you just type formed a new world in Google and then hit images and you scroll through them all. Fantastic breaches of privacy. I, for one, welcome our AI overlords, Google Lambda, if you're listening. So a queue is made up of multiple bits, right? So this is how I explained it to Mum. Why do you wait in the supermarket queue? And we had that little conversation, and eventually she hit on because someone is checking out their groceries in front of me, right? So this guy here, he looks a little bit grumpy. He's just about to check out by the looks of things because the clerk's got the little swipey doohickey there, and he's got that I'm going to have to spend money look on my face, right? These two are waiting, and this person's just arrived, looks a little bit, she probably saw a price for a block of cheese and, still trying to complicate it, right? So this is called the service time. This, the bit where you're waiting, surprisingly enough, it's called the wait time. How about that? Here's good that, Erling. This actually is Little's Law, John D. Little, 1950, mumble, mumble, mumble. So that's probably sort of like the new body of performance testing work, as we like to call it. So the amount of time that you're waiting in a system is made up of your service time and your wait time. Because when you're waiting for your checkout operator to go through, you don't sort of sit there and think, oh yeah, cool, I'm getting checked out, whew, I'm done. You're not done until you leave the other side. So if you're waiting in that queue for, God forbid, 6 or 7 minutes, but it only takes them a minute to check you out, as far as you're concerned, you've been waiting there for 7 to 10 minutes, right? Because we kind of think it bits of 10. So that's what we've got. And this doesn't look too bad. This was before they had more self-service checkouts on, so they've got the express queue down here. Now, the self-service stuff's really interesting. Who thinks it's faster? Why don't you think it's faster? Got the same number of items regardless. What's the code for a Bure Bosque pear? It's like, okay, look up item PEA, oh bugger it, it's a brown onion, right? We are not as fast as the person who does this day to day as their job. So if you've only got 5 to 10 items and the system is not under load, you'll probably get through self-service checkout, but that is only because you've got a hard limit of the number of things that you do. Now, reflecting back to I'd had a few ports and Mum had had a few ports, the self-service checkout completely falls apart as soon as you go in and buy alcohol. Because it's boop, and you're waiting for the person to come and scan it. So at peak, that time just blows out. Pro tip, if you're buying alcohol, go through the operator used ones. Yep, always, right? So per unit, they're way, way faster to go through. So there's only certain cases where the self-service is actually quicker, but it's illusory. It's a little bit of fudgy magic, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's our basic queue. Now, here's another picture. Bit busier today. What's the difference? So we've got people waiting here, people waiting there. Why do we think these queues are bigger? more demand, there's more people, right? It's a busier time. People are arriving into the supermarket and they're arriving into the queue faster than the checkout operators can push them through. And that's all it is. So in queuing theory world, we would call this system unstable because the rate of people coming in and the rate of people leaving is now unbalanced. So you've got a queue of people here waiting to service and your checkout operators banging them through, right? So nice and simple. Now, the thing I love about supermarkets, I don't when I'm waiting in them. After I've come out, I've thought to myself, well, that was interesting. One client site I worked with the capacity manager, and we went over to the New World in the railway station with a stopwatch, and we stood there and we timed the relative throughputs of the self-checkout versus the operator checkout. That's how we know that, you know, that's definitely not faster. I'm very surprised that we weren't marched out by the police because we looked a little bit dodgy, right? But anyway, so and that's the simple reason, right? We've just had this massive spike of load come in. Christmas time. Oh my God, Christmas time. Right? And again, that's the reason. You've got people coming into your system because in queuing theory, system has nothing to do with computers at all. That's the system. Waiting out for the fudge brownie, an afternoon tea. That's the system. You're queuing because the person who is sorting that thing out for you is taking longer than the amount of people who arrive. So, my question to you, if this is busy, how do you fix it, given that this is a photo of our checkout? So again, we've got a checkout operator here. This was in the before times, evidently, before COVID, because there was someone there bagging your groceries for you and no one's wearing a mask. And we've got some person paying here, and I would imagine behind us, we've got people queuing because we've got a few guys over here. How would you tune that system?
To increase the number of queues.
Yep. Is there a capacity limit? Of course there is. You could try and bring the service time down for this. So in this case, you've only really got two options. Try and reduce the service time or try and have more queues. If you have more queues, and this sounds a lot like the cloud in a way, if you have more queues, eventually you're going to run out of physical space to host these. So you've got a very hard resource limit on your supermarket. You can't have more operators than you have places for your operators to be. Sounds just like a computer system to me, right? Hard limits on everything you've got. Reducing your service time here, unlikely to be possible. Your checkout operators do this every single day. They'll know what the code for a Bureau-Bosc pair is. I don't. They'll have it in here. They can push items through the till quickly. They can check your ID if you're buying a bottle of beer rather than you having to wait for the guy to come around self-service. So at peak, these are actually quicker. It doesn't look like it because you've got a massive queue out behind, but that's because you have so much load coming into the system that you get the queues snaking around the shop. But, and here's the fun part, because what I do is not necessarily about finding the right answer. If I tune this, let's say I have infinite capacity in my supermarket. Do you think if I go from 1 to 2 queues, I will get double the amount of people coming through the checkout? Yes? No?
You would receive double the people that would come.
So I heard in all things being even, that it should. What about if I went from 2 to 4? Will I get 4 times? Assuming we have an infinite amount of customers coming into the store at a fixed rate. If we go from 4 to 8, 8 to 16. What's that, sorry? Oh, now you see, and that's where things get very interesting. Assume we don't, but you're ahead for the next question. Queuing theory would state that depending on the type of queue, and supermarkets use both types, that if you go from 1 to 2, you'll get slightly less than twice your throughput. If you go from 2 to 4, you'll get slightly less than 4. Now, you can see this yourself tonight when you go to the grocery shop, and it'll be an interesting little experiment. How many people here go to the very first queue they see? That's why. That's why. we make a little bit of a judgment call. It's like, which one of these do we think is going faster? I'm going to assign myself to this queue. Now, one of the papers I read, because there are papers about this, and they are quite interesting. There's a whole field of queuing theory devoted to elevators. Believe it or not, right? The paper found that a self-selecting supermarket queue, just like New Ward Thorndon, is in every single case the slowest way of doing things. The most efficient way is to route people based on the load in the queue. So you have a little person, you there, you there, you there, and so on and so on and so on. You still don't get double the throughput, but your curve is a lot better than if you have a self-selecting queue. So, and as we alluded to before, this is only one very small part of the system. We've got to get people out of the shop. We've got to get them into the shop. God forbid, at Christmas, you've got to find them a car park. So even if you do tune this, you've got so many other things to actually have a look about. That's why supermarkets are quite interesting wee beasties. So, like I said before, supermarket, we have a hard limit. We can't scale past our capacity. Now, cloud as well, you might say, well, we can scale infinitely in the cloud. No, you can't. And if you try, it's going to cost you a lot of money and you're going to be very disappointed. Self-checkouts, they might look faster, but that's because we've got a limit on the amount of things that we allow each person to do. Superior New World, it's 15. As soon as someone buys alcohol, the whole system collapses. As soon as some person gets that unexpected bag in the bagging area kind of thing, the whole system collapses, right? It doesn't take much to bring that little subsystem to its knees. It's very, very easy. And if you want to try it, feel free tonight. It's a lot of fun. It's great. Even if you do find the perfect solution to your checkout problem, you're still going to have another problem over the horizon. So the trick behind what I do is try and figure out where the most efficient solutions are. And also, too, as we said before, and we alluded to this, if you just simply increase the number of checkout operators, you're not going to get double throughput if you go to 2, or if you go to 4 or 8 or 16 or whatever. It's going to be slightly less, and computers operate in exactly the same way. So what is it they actually do? I try to find the least bad solution to the problem, because there's no right answer in performance testing. It's just like there's actually no right answer in scheduling how many people am I going to need on the checkouts when you've got a problem getting people into the car park or the deli. Because New World Deli, they do really good sandwiches, right? So you've got another queuing system there. So you've got a bottleneck in that part of the supermarket. So it's trying to find that least bad combination between resources, cost, and efficiency of the system, any system. Doesn't matter what it is, computer system, physical system, the door at the back, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And if anyone wants to fight me about it, I've got the big book with me. 340 pages of queuing theory, each page more action-packed than the last. How about that? So that's what I do. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any questions? There's one up there, and you're right next to the box, so take it away.
Probably a little bit off the beat here, but Amazon recently introduced a supermarket without a check-in queue or anything, where you just slip things in the box and walk out. Has there been any stats on those, or are they quicker?
Not that I'm aware of yet, but it would be bloody interesting to find out. Because again, we'll have little bits of subsystems in there. If there's a deli or something like that where people are waiting for something. Yeah, it would be very, very interesting.
Awesome, any questions? Oh, yes,
This is not a testing question, it's just sticking with your supermarket analogy. I'm just curious, what makes us bad at picking queues? So you said there's a choice in there. I handled my hands, so that one's got a bigger.
Yep.
You're saying I'm rubbish at picking queues?
Oh, we're all rubbish, because I'll go for the one with 2 people in it. Even if those two people have a pile of groceries and, you know, most of which people who buy cigarettes, oh my God, I'll do the same thing. And it's my profession. I shouldn't. I should look at the amount of stuff that each person is trying to check through and then make a calculation based on the number of items and the type of items, but I don't. I just go to the one with two people in it and then instantly regret it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Throw it up this way, behind you. Nice.
Staying with the supermarket thing, the COVID thing probably gave us a few new challenges, like queuing outside. It would be interesting to see where that actually comes from. The other thing is the batch processing in supermarkets, because now you can go online, order, and then pick up.
Correct.
Which made it much quicker.
It does. It does, but more in terms of Gustafson's law, because I don't have to actually do anything. Even though all of that stuff is taking place, I go out and do other things while someone else is doing the groceries for me. So their actual pick off the shelves, their checkout may or may not be significantly less to what I myself would experience, but because I'm not there, and a little man turns up with some bags later on, it's fine. Yeah, it's asynchronous process. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. We've got time for one more question. I tell you what, it's your choice. You've got the cube.
It's fairly real.
So I just wanted to point out that you were saying that a lot of people buy cigarettes or alcohol in the South.
Yep.
Right, but in supermarkets, they usually do only have one person that has the license.
Correct.
Pointed out. So when you're in the circus, they usually do have to call the supervisor.
Correct. And that's where things get very, very, very interesting. So there's two additional laws. You've got Armdale's law and the scalability law. So the fact that you have one person who holds that license, and it does get really interesting around this, that's a serial dependency. So no matter how many queues you come out this way, and if you assume on average, say 20 to 30% of those people are going to buy alcohol, then the more queues you have, the worse your performance is going to start to get, because you're starting to put a queue on that person with the license who now has to go from here to there to there to there to there to there to there to check it out. So that tends to be what we call retrograde performance. So you've got parallel factor and a serial dependency. So you scale up to a certain number of checkouts, for instance, and then all of a sudden your throughput starts dropping precipitously through the floor. In a computer system, it's beautiful to see. Happens a lot with batch processing, but it's absolutely stunning. Brings a tear to your eye. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking Scott again.